My name is Victoria Chen, and today I'm going to talk to you about immigrant and refugee children. So, how is the issue defined? An immigrant is defined as a person who was born in another country and whose parents are not U.S. citizens. Here in Atlanta, most immigrants come from Mexico and Asia and are more likely to live in the suburbs. They are usually poorer than the native-born population, have low English proficiency, and lower rates of U.S. citizenship. A refugee is a person who flees his or her homeland because of persecution or fear of persecution on the basis of race, religion, political belief, ethnicity, or belonging to a certain social group. Refugees come to Georgia by invitation of the U.S. Department of State and must undergo background checks and medical screenings before being allowed to come to the country. They are legal immigrants and eligible for work, school, and social services. Refugees come to Atlanta from many different countries. Some of the most common are Iraq, Iran, Bhutan, Burma, Cuba, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia. The federal government has exclusive authority over immigrant and refugee admissions to the U.S. Policies, however, are made by states, cities, and counties. Nonprofit and community organizations also develop program and policies to assist immigrants. So how widespread is the issue in Atlanta? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, a 2013 estimate of Atlanta showed a population of 447,841. The number of immigrants was estimated to be about 8% for Atlanta and 10% for the state of Georgia. 11% of children in Atlanta spoke a language other than English at home. According to a 2004 study done by the Brookings Institution, Atlanta has had a large immigrant growth within the past 20 years. It is the third fastest growing immigrant population in the country. Atlanta is considered to be an emerging gateway for immigrants, along with the states of Colorado, Nevada, and North Carolina. Who is affected? Everyone in Atlanta is affected by the issue of immigrant and refugees because we live with them, work with them, and our children go to school with them. One issue which affects the entire population is the school system. The public schools in Georgia have only recently begun addressing language obstacles of immigrant children. They are concerned about how to address them. Factors such as stereotyping, poor facilities, and inadequate teacher training lead to a high dropout rate of these children. In Georgia, limited English proficient students have a 37.7% high school graduation rate. According to Georgia Governor's Office of Student Achievement, this is the lowest completion rate of any subgroup, excluding disabled students. While local school systems are mandated by state and federal laws to offer programs for these students, many argue these programs have less educational content and isolate students from opportunities to learn and speak English to their peers. If these children have low educational achievement or do not graduate, they will not be able to get jobs, pay taxes, or help the economy to grow. The following is an interview with two former ESOL students. So here I am with two children of immigrants, and their first language was something other than English, and they were both in ESOL when they were in elementary school. So Josephine, tell me about your experience with ESOL.
Well, I did enjoy ESOL. However, I did feel like I wasn't really the same as the other kids in my regular class. I felt kind of different, not normal like everybody else, and well, I felt like pretty much all we did in ESOL was games, but I mean it was fun. However, I didn't really do too good in my literature and language arts part of the class. But I did make friends, and I finally learned how to do math. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so you felt like you were isolated?
Yes, isolated from the rest of my normal class.
And did they take you out during language arts? Is that why you didn't?
Yes,
do
I
well?
do. Yes, they did.
Okay, so you didn't get to do language arts with the rest of the class?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay, Cristiano, what about you?
Well, as you say, I felt just like Josephine, but I like the games and they taught me math.
So all you did was play games and do math?
Well, no, not just that. Like, we did these weight scout things where, like, you put one weight and then the other weight and then put like that. But yeah, I was taking out a class and I didn't feel that right, you know.
Did they help you learn English?
Yeah, when we read together as groups, like the dog and them.
Like the dog and the cat. I've read that story. Yes, I've read that story, The Dog and the Cat.
Yeah, it's like when dog goes down the street. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's supposed to help you learn English, the dog and the cat?
yeah, like we read together.
Oh.
But I felt like I was on a lower reading level than the rest of the class, even though I've always been an excellent reader.
Okay.
I felt good because I could read, you know, like I had strong kinds of reading. I just helped out the other people because, you know, they couldn't read that well, so I helped them out.
Okay. Okay, well.
Also, I feel like it's a little discriminatory to test certain people for ESOL.
Why do you think you were tested?
Because I guess I look different from the rest of the kids in the class. Because, yeah.
Yeah.
No, true story. Like, this is a very true story. I don't know why, but when I walked in, like, I didn't see other people that were different. They all looked just like me
In ESOL or in your class?
in ESOL.
Oh, in ESOL, everyone looked like you?
Yeah,
Yeah, in my ESOL
they were all the
class,
same skin
everybody
color
was
and
from,
from like Mexican and stuff.
yeah, everybody was
Mexican,
Mexican in mine.
True story. So I feel like I'm like, oh, these are my siblings, but you know.
Okay, so mainly everybody in ESOL is Hispanic, is what you're saying.
Mexican.
In your oh,
Seems like it.
I'm serious.
okay.
Basically what I thought.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Some
guys.
Asians.
Thank you.
Okay.
Another issue with immigrant and refugee children in Atlanta is racial profiling and laws targeting the immigrant population, such as Georgia Bill HB 87. HB 87 authorizes officers to check immigration status during arrests, detentions, or routine traffic stops if there is a reasonable suspicion the person may be an undocumented immigrant. It also requires employers to use a database to check immigration status of workers. Laws like this create anxiety and tension in the immigrant communities. Children and their families live in constant fear of separation, which has negative psychological and emotional consequences. Georgians may not see deportation as their problem, but it is. When mothers or fathers are deported, families are separated. Children who are U.S. citizens are left here. Oftentimes, these children end up in a foster care system. The burden for the care of these children then falls on the state and federal governments. An estimate from the Center of American Progress states the cost to foster each child is close to $26,000 per year. Other times, mothers are left alone to care for these children with no financial support, while the child is left wondering when they will see their father again. Many of these families require public assistance, which also costs taxpayers money.
What are the causes? The causes for immigrant and refugee children in Atlanta are: number 1, Georgia is one of the 49 states that accepts refugees. It is ranked 7th among states for the total number of refugees it has taken in over the past 6 years. Number 2, after the 1996 Olympics, Atlanta saw a huge construction boom. This also drew immigrants here for work purposes. As is normal, these immigrants brought family members who brought family members, etc. So, what organizations exist to help? Fortunately, there are organizations here in Atlanta to help immigrant and refugee families. One of those organizations is Catholic Charities Atlanta. Catholic Charities assists both refugees and immigrants. It offers resettlement services such as finding a place to stay, helping find employment, and working with parents of students to increase their involvement in their children's education. It also offers a youth mentoring program for children between 9 and 17 to assist and encourage refugee youth. This is the only organization in Georgia to work with immigrant children who have been abused, neglected, or abandoned by their families. There is a Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights. This is a nonprofit, community-based organization that encourages Latino immigrants in Georgia to defend their civil and human rights. It works to educate and organize Latino communities to stand up against racial discrimination, economic injustice, detentions, deportations, and police abuse. It offers a hotline for immigrants to call if they are mistreated, abused, or detained. It advises local policymakers on immigration-related issues, informs the public about anti-immigration legislation, and assists Latinos who have suffered abuse to file lawsuits. Somos Georgia is a group in Georgia who strive for immigrant, racial, and economic justice. They organize boycotts and educate public about unfair legislation targeting immigrants and other people of color in the state of Georgia. The International Rescue Committee, or IRC, also assists refugees with resettlement. It offers counseling to help with social adjustments and crisis intervention. They have a program called Women's Instruction for Lifetime Empowerment, specifically designed for female heads of household. They have family mentors assigned to help families practice English and make them feel welcomed. The International Rescue Committee reunites families by assisting refugees in the U.S. to file applications for their immediate family members. They offer a Youth Future program for refugee teenagers to help them succeed in high school and prepare for college. Teens receive after-school tutoring, English language instruction, and computer literacy courses. Over the summer, they get to go on field trips, visit colleges, and work at internships. They also have a literacy program for refugee mothers and preschool children where they learn to read and write in English and help mothers to be able to educate their children. There's also the National Day Laborer Organizing Network. This network works to organize day laborers so they may earn a living in a safe and fair environment. It protects their civil, labor, and human rights while educating them about these rights. So what are some current policy issues? The federal government is trying to alleviate some stress for immigrant families nationwide with the Deferred Action for Parents of Americans and Lawful Permanent Residents program. This is a program where parents of citizen and permanent resident children who have been in the country for at least 5 years will be able to apply for a 3-year renewal stay of deportation and a work permit. It will also suspend the deportation of undocumented young people who were brought to the U.S. as children, meet certain educational requirements, and match criteria established under the DREAM Act. While refugee and immigrant admissions are governed by the federal government, our Governor Nathan Deal also has an opinion on it. He recently wrote a letter to President Obama complaining about Georgia receiving a disproportionate number of refugee placements. He cited school district budget shortfalls and health and safety concerns. The International Rescue Committee, which I mentioned earlier, countered Deal's comments, explaining that over 80% of refugees are self-sufficient within 6 months of their arrival. They generate taxes and are an asset to Georgia. Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed also spoke up on the subject of immigration. He supports President Obama's controversial immigration program. He feels the new immigration policies will strengthen Atlanta's economy. The president's program has 4 principles: continuing to strengthen border security, streamlining legal immigration, providing undocumented immigrants a legal way to earn citizenship, and cracking down on employers who hire undocumented workers. So what are some possible solutions? I believe the organizations in place are doing a good job addressing many of the current issues that face immigrant and refugee children. However, there are things they cannot control, such as laws passed by the federal government. The government needs to create more laws to support families and children instead of trying to separate them. According to the Kids Count Data Center in Atlanta in 2013, 89% of children in immigrant families were U.S. citizens. Of these children, 48% of their parents were not citizens. Congress has been unsuccessful in reforming immigration laws and in the meantime continues to enforce the existing ones which do not work. This has caused immigrants to be deported in record numbers. While President Obama is trying to help the situation, he does not have the authority to simply stop deportations. Only legislation can provide a permanent solution to the problem. As far as solutions to issues in the state of Georgia, I believe the education of these children should be a top priority. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement has a program called the Innovation Fund. This fund supports local education authorities, schools, institutions of higher education, and nonprofit organizations who come up with educational programs to advance achievement in Georgia. For the 2015 fiscal year, Governor Deal appropriated $5 million and administered 18 grants. Most of these grants focus on STEM education. Not one had to do with servicing the growing population of children who are not native speakers of English. What I don't know is if grants regarding this were even proposed. If they were not, they should be. Another problem is many of the programs for refugee and immigrant children only service the metro areas. Services need to be expanded to other areas of Georgia which also have high percentages of these children.